When Red Bull promoted Liam Lawson to partner Max Verstappen in 2025, they expected a future star. Instead, they may have signed their next mid-season casualty, and the clock is ticking. In this video, I'm going to break down for you the brutal truth behind Liam Lawson's disastrous start, why Red Bull might already be planning his exit, and who's waiting in the wings set that coveted seat, and the answer may surprise you. So Red Bull, remember, don't do sentiment. You are measured in tenths of a second, but Lawson is trailing in seconds. And in F1, potential doesn't mean anything. It's not F2 or F3. Performance is everything. And right now, Lawson is failing the Verstappen test, which we're going to get onto later. Because Red Bull's second seat isn't a promotion, it's actually, if you look back, a firing squad. Gasly, Albon, Ricciardo, Perez, they've all been burnt by the Verstappen benchmark. So Lawson knew when he entered the seat, it wasn't just to race, but first of all, he did need to survive. So you go back to 2019, it starts maybe with Gasly, Albon in 2020, Red Bull expected these rookies to hit the ground running, so they don't care about minimal prep. Lawson had minimal prep. He hadn't raced, I think, at Melbourne or China before, but Red Bull doesn't care. Like I said, it's all about the results. It's no longer about the potential in that car. So let's look at the stats, and Lawson's stats from the opening races aren't just bad. They are actually historically bad. Here's why. 3 consecutive Q1 eliminations, 0.7 seconds off Verstappen in China, last place in the China sprint, and even though this is despite having no prior experience of those cars, and also limited practice due to mechanical issues, but there's no excuses at Red Bull. And Liam Lawson himself said this. He said there aren't going to be any excuses. He knew it was going to be a cauldron of fire. But Red Bull see this gap as unacceptable. They actually expect less than about 0.3 seconds between the second driver to Verstappen. And at the moment, Red Bull insiders are calling Lawson Gasly 2.0, which is really not a great thing for Liam Lawson to be associated with, because Red Bull are quite a unique team. So when the paddock goes around whispering and the fans are screaming, Lawson's hearing both, actually this makes a big difference to Red Bull, because public opinion matters more to Red Bull than you might think. Red Bull are not in Formula 1 to sell cars. Red Bull in Formula 1 purely as a branding exercise. So now the F1 community Twitter hype train has jumped on Liam's fraudster, calling him a disaster, and the posts are already comparing him to Gasly. Red Bull really listens to this, maybe more than any other team, because this narrative shapes sponsor confidence and also the perception of their brand. Remember, it was slightly different with Sergio Perez. Sergio Perez was a really established driver who came with a lot of established sponsorship and also had been a race winner in Red Bull. He had beaten Max Verstappen. I went to Monaco and I saw Sergio Perez win the race, and I saw all of the Mexican fans there really supporting him. Unfortunately for Liam Lawson, he doesn't quite come with this level of sponsorship and existing pedigree. So let's look at the alternatives for Red Bull, but mainly Tsunoda and Hadjar. And they're not just options, they're also applying a huge amount of pressure onto Liam Lawson because they're doing really well. So Tsunoda scored 2/3 of RB's points in 2024. He absolutely dismissed Daniel Ricciardo, quite astonishingly. In China this year, he qualified 9th. He stated that he's ready. There's a big narrative that's stating that Tsunoda should have been picked over Liam Lawson, and it's all unfair on Tsunoda. Going to let you know why they haven't picked Tsunoda. What about Isaac Hadjar? So as a rookie, he qualified 7th in China. 7th in China. He's got a lot of raw pace. He's come back really strongly from being really, I think, disgustingly treated by Helmut Marko in Melbourne after he crashed in the formation lap. So he's shown some real kind of like steel there. And also, think about this. Verstappen has hinted that Liam Lawson might actually do better in the slower RB. He said this to Dutch media, which is very interesting because he's also implying that Hadjar is outperforming the slower RB machinery. So when Verstappen says that, probably to try and kind of comfort Liam Lawson, he's actually really hyping up Isaac Hadjar. Now this begs the question whether you have Tsunoda, Hadjar or Lawson or Gasly or Albon. What if the problem isn't Liam Lawson? What if it's the system? Because Red Bull has a long history of breaking young drivers, and Lawson is looking like the latest victim of a broken pipeline. And this is because the second seat is built to serve Verstappen, not develop talent. It's really interesting at Red Bull. They haven't done what Mercedes have done, which is put George Russell in and really build him up, and now he's a team leader. And now they've put Kimi in and they're going to build Kimi up, and in the future he might be a team leader. Red Bull have used his second team, Toro Rosso, to develop the talent, but there's become too much of a gulf between that RB team that's really well run and also the Red Bull team that's just become a power-centric force around Verstappen. And in fact, I've had it, someone said in one of my live streams, the Red Bull team is built to serve Verstappen so much as a driver, they should actually put Jos Verstappen in the other car because only a Verstappen can drive a Red Bull. It's pretty crazy, but it does make you think. So Lawson is not just racing Max Verstappen, he's being measured by Max Verstappen, and he's being excluded by the Max Verstappen gang. There was already a massive power struggle in Red Bull last year around the Christian Horner sexual discrimination lawsuit, all of that drama, Adrian Newey leaving. There was a huge power struggle. Mateschitz dying at Red Bull. There was a big power struggle there. So already there's been lots of forces that managed to seize control, and they want to keep that control. And they're all centered around Verstappen, because without Verstappen, that team just does not really exist anymore. So when you look at Lawson now, we are sensing that it could be similar to Albon's collapse in 2020 or Gasly getting demoted mid-season. So, what about the timeline for Liam Lawson? How many races does he have left? According to Helmut Marko, it's just 2 races. So Liam Lawson is halfway through his grace period. If he doesn't turn it around immediately, the decision is going to be imminent. And there are rumours going around that Yuki Tsunoda is being lined up to replace Liam Lawson as soon as Japan. I personally don't think that will happen. I think Liam Lawson is an experienced driver in Japan, all of his time racing in Super Formula and out in Japan. So he should be good at Suzuka, or that should be a really good opportunity for Red Bull to make an assessment. But Helmut Marko, he said F1 is a competitive sport. That's what counts. There are internal discussions already happening. Tsunoda and Hadjar are accelerating the pressure, and although generally mid-seat swaps in Formula 1 are rare, not for Red Bull. So I have an idea here. F1 gives you one shot. Lawson might have blown a shot. It might already be over. The reason why I don't think they're going to promote Yuki Tsunoda urgently is because Yuki Tsunoda is probably off to Aston Martin next season with the Honda tie-up. So Aston Martin and Honda really want Yuki Tsunoda. So it doesn't make too much sense for Red Bull to promote Tsunoda right now. But what about this? Gasly is a rookie. Albon as a rookie, essentially. Ricciardo, Perez. Now Liam Lawson as a rookie. They've all struggled. What do they all lack? Maybe that kind of arrogance and confidence that a certain Fernando Alonso has. How about this? Fernando Alonso, who's really falling out with Aston Martin this season, a brake failure in Shanghai. How about Alonso goes into the Red Bull, kind of stabilizes that team, and it's a straight swap with the Red Bull camp, with Tsunoda going to the Aston Martin team a little bit early. I think that would be sensational. I think it would be tantalizing. If you remember back in 2023, it was actually Fernando Alonso who was applying the most pressure to Max Verstappen at times. If you remember, for example, the Monaco qualifying. Let me know your verdict in the comments. Who do you think is going to be the partner for Max Verstappen this season? I don't want any more BS F1 analysis like we see on TV. I just want the actual facts here. So make sure you hit subscribe, stay ruthless, and I'll see you in the next video.